We'll bring up Alex. Alex is pro-ICE. Alex, welcome to the show. Can you please provide me your age and pronouns?
38, he, him.
Okay. Alex, 38, he, him. And you are pro-ICE, Alex. Tell me why you're pro-ICE.
Well, it's, in order to have a nation, you have to have borders, and you have to have enforcement of laws that keep citizens and non-citizens.
Okay. So I agree with you. In order to have a nation, you need borders. In order to have those borders secure, you need some type of enforcement. But my question is, why do you support ICE specifically? I assume you support ICE in what they are currently doing, which is the ramp up of deportations and raids and things like that. My question is more, why do you support that specifically?
Okay, yeah. I don't mean to quibble. It was a little ambiguous, but I know you can't really put it all in there. But yes, I do support it because it's sending a message to the world that it's like a free-for-all here. And if you make it here and you cross the border and disappear into the general population, then you're going to be okay.
Alex, are you still there? Alex, hello? Hello, Alex?
Hello?
Oh, yep, we lost you a little bit there. Can you repeat the last thing you were
Can
saying?
you can hear me now?
Yes, you're very loud. If you could take a step back from the microphone a little bit, you're peaking on the stream.
Okay. Yeah, I had it on speaker and I changed it. Okay, so is that better?
That's better, yes. Continue with what you were saying about supporting ICE.
Yeah. So I forget where I was, but there. So the thing is we've got it's if we send a message to the world that if you can just make it here and blend into the population, that you're going to be that it's just a free for all here, then I'm sorry, but there's a billion starving poor people in India, and we can't handle all of them. Same throughout all of South America, Central America, Mexico itself.
So really quickly, Alex, because
yeah.
I want to really dive into this little bit about ICE and what they're currently doing. Right. I think that per the like right now, if I'm just looking at what is in the country, laws and whatnot, having an enforcement position that deports people who are here illegally, yeah, that's like on the books law. I think it should be reserved for people who commit like criminal actions. I don't think we should just deport everybody. That's neither here nor there. ICE currently, through their efforts of ramping up deportations, are violating the constitutional rights of citizens and non-citizens. Are you in agreement with the violation of those rights as long as it continues to get people deported?
I'm not sure that there is much of that going on. It's like a similar argument to it's like a similar. Although if there is, which actually I'm sure there is some instances of that. It's like saying in war there should be no casualties or something like. It's and it's terribly sad and it's atrocious, and especially if it's deliberate or has some racist undertone, which I really doubt. I think there's hardly any of that. These people are just doing their job. But
okay, so let's dive into this. You're saying that there will always be some level of rights violations, and that this is justifiable in return for what ICE is doing and what ICE is giving us. I'm going to have a slight pushback on this, but the first thing I want to know is like, what's the percentage here? Like, how many rights are okay to be violated until you would say like this is a problem?
Well, like I said with the war metaphor, it's always a problem, but it comes with the territory.
So let's take a war, for example. How many civilian casualties are okay in a war before you go, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this? Because I don't think all civilian
Well,
casualties are justified in war. I think there's tons of
no,
unjustified
absolutely not.
civilian casualties where I would go, this was not okay. You are in the wrong, whether wartime or not, for committing these atrocities.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure anybody with a head on their shoulders can agree with that. Yep.
Yeah. So, for instance, the ACLU has put out reports that ICE detention facilities are committing human rights violations and abuse violations inside of the facilities. Physicians for Human Rights have put out documents talking about how ICE is violating their own policies, especially in ways of like solitary confinement. Um, uh, we have issues of people not being able to contact legal representation. Lawyers have come out and been like, we can't even find our clients. We don't know where our clients are. This would be
Yeah, well, you
this
know
would be a
what? You know
violation.
what they suffered? You know what they suffered on the journey here was rape, human trafficking, child molestation, abduction, murder, abuse, just on the road to get here, and that's just from Central America. And I seriously doubt it has. You know, there may be some problems, but it's nothing compared to what we're promoting
So it's
in
so
the
just
in
so
the
that I'm
Darien Gap, for example.
so that I'm understanding here really quickly. You're saying it's okay that they're experiencing this because they've experienced worse. So this is justified because it's not the worst thing that they might have experienced.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm
Okay.
not saying it's okay.
You're saying it's justified.
When it, I'm saying that, well, it's, I wouldn't say justified either, but it's. I mean, I think it's probably overblown in the media, and I think, I mean, people are given. We pay extraordinary amounts to take care of these people, and I think they're probably being taken care of pretty well, and it's nothing like if we can kind of pivot too, if that's all right, because you're talking with the last caller about how he didn't know what the SS was and stuff. You know, it's not like a concentration camp. You know, it's
So So I agree. I wouldn't. Well, in some
Do you
instances,
really?
I would very much uh, connect some of the treatment of immigrants to especially America's use of concentration camps, like internment camps for the Japanese. Um, like if I'm looking at CCOT, which is a prison where where undocumented immigrants are sent under the behest of the U.S. government, I would say CCOT is absolutely comparable to concentration camps, both in Germany and in, like I said, the U.S. We've done concentration camps before. It's not like anything new to us. And typically, the U.S. will
Oh.
outsource these things. I mean, look at the way we've outsourced political prisons. But like I said, my more question here is like, when does that shift? You've agreed with me that there is probably a shift in war where we go, okay, there's been too many civilian casualties. This is wrong. So when's that shift of rights violations through ICE? When does that shift hit where we go, okay, there's something fundamentally broken here when it comes to ICE and the way they are operating outside of the bounds of the Constitution. So if I see that a federal agency is operating outside of the bounds of the Constitution, I have an issue with this and want to look at how that federal agency is structured, who's giving them the go ahead to do this, and possibly look at like, does that federal agency need to either be abolished or restructured? Do you have that same tipping point or no?
I think there needs to be like constant review and reform. The problem is, if you give everybody a quote unquote fair trial, and there's millions, that would take a century, and it would take more manpower than we have, and
So
people are saying things like all cops are bastards and shit like that, and so people are getting this mind virus where they don't want to participate in the legal system, and
so it's
and when
okay.
it's really
It's so
absolutely necessary.
so Alex, this is what's confusing me. It, everybody in the United States, citizen or not, has the right to due process. That is the Fifth Amendment, your Fifth Amendment constitutional right. The Supreme Court has affirmed numerous times that the right to due process is not just for U.S. citizens; it's for any person who's set foot on U.S. soil. You have a right to due process under the law. Your What it sounds like you're saying is that, well, it would take too long to give all of these people due process, so we can just ignore that amendment.
I think it's basically, yeah, it's like an extenuating circumstance. It's not like
So it's okay to violate the Constitution as long as it's an extenuating circumstance. Then we can violate the Constitution.
well, I mean, I don't know if you've got to go through the judiciary. Probably that would have been a good idea, but I think maybe the executive branch kind of has a power to make there's some Latin temporary
Okay. So let's run through a
yeah.
let's run through a hypothetical scenario here. Let's say somebody in the federal government just gets pissed at you for whatever reason. You sleep with their wife or something. Who knows? Who cares? The reason doesn't important. And they go, well, I think Alex is an undocumented citizen, or an undocumented migrant. So I'm going to take Alex. I'm going to send ICE to Alex's door. I'm going to arrest Alex, and I'm going to ship Alex to CCOT. Okay. How do you prove that you're a citizen if they don't allow you due process?
I mean, there's there's a complete record of me being here
Doesn't
legally.
matter.
I've
They don't
birth
let you show it
certificate.
because they didn't give you due process. They don't give you time to sit in front of a judge. They don't give you the ability to talk to a lawyer. They don't care because it's okay to violate
I don't think
because
that's
you've
true.
set the
I don't think that's
hold
true.
on.
They're not.
Hold on. You've set the wait. No, it is. We have direct evidence of them violating people's. So, for instance, we can take Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Right. He had an order of a withholding, an order uh, of non-removal to El Salvador specifically. He was not allowed to be shipped from this country to El Salvador because he went through the proper immigration channels. He got approved by a judge to be here. He had been meeting with the Department of Homeland Security every year to recertify his ability to work in this country. Donald Trump's
Yeah,
administration, headed by Kristi
sounds
Noem,
like due
deported
process. Yeah.
him. Hold on. They deported him to El Salvador without giving him due process. And the Supreme Court has affirmed he was not given due process when he was deported because due process would have been going to court and getting his his withholding of removal order rescinded, but they didn't do that. They just shipped him out. So if someone decides to do this to you, right? How do you prove that you're a citizen here if they're just going to ignore court orders? They're just going to ignore what the Supreme Court says, if they're just going to ignore all of those things.
Well, I think that's a tragedy if that's true, and that's quite difficult to answer. But it seems like he was making appeals, but he was on the way out. Is that?
He had so I can read you from the Supreme Court if you want me to read it directly. He had a withholding of removal from the Supreme Court or from immigration courts. This was granted to him in
But he was
2019.
legal.
He was not a citizen, correct, but he had a withholding of removal because he had missed the deadline to apply for asylum, but was able to demonstrate that he had credible reasons to be scared of what to be
Yeah,
fearful
I
of being
understand.
back home. So he had credible evidence that, hey, if I go back home, my life is in danger. So they said, okay, we're going to grant you a withholding of removal, so you can't go back. They can't send you back to El Salvador. Now Technically, he could go to a different country if they wanted to send him to a different country. This is true, but he could not be sent to El Salvador. What happened is the government ignored this court order, and they sent him to El Salvador against the law. The Supreme Court looked at this. They said, "Hey, you sending him to El Salvador is wrong. It was illegal." And they said specifically he did not receive due process. The Supreme Court said you did not give this man due process. Now,
yeah, that's tragedy. That's tragedy.
Yep. So my question to you is, what's to stop them from continuing to do this if you believe that there are extenuating circumstances where you can just ignore due process?
What's to stop them is the oath they take is what's to stop them.
But it didn't stop them because they did it anyway.
Well, I mean, it's not all of them. You're making it them like they're and when
I say them, I mean the Gestapo. The administration.
Donald Trump's the Nazi Gestapo administration.
I wouldn't call the Trump administration Nazi.
You did on the last call multiple times.
I didn't call. No, I compared them to the Gestapo. Because the Gestapo is what happens when you have a police force that is able to violate people's rights. You will get a police force.
Have you seen the mass graves where? Have you seen mass graves of Jews where they just pour lye on them and fucking bury them?
I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about currently.
Nazism and the Gestapo specifically.
Great. Again, I would
words you use to compare American people doing their duties.
What I compared was people violating a police force violating rights to another police force that violated rights. Not every comparison is comparing all of one thing to another. If I take an apple, which is a fruit, and I compare it to a baseball, and I go, look, these two things are both round. You then can't look at me and go, but did you know you can eat apples and you can't eat baseballs? Yes, I know that because I was not comparing.
You're comparing an apple to the Golden Gate Bridge just because they're both red.
I'm comparing two police forces because the Gestapo didn't start by burning Jewish people. The Gestapo started by just arresting and violating people's rights. That's how they started. So I can compare two police forces that do this. This is how comparisons work. You don't need to compare the entirety of one thing to the entirety of another. You can compare bits and pieces of them together. That's how comparisons work. But this is avoiding the question I asked you, which is, what do we do about the fact that ICE, you support ICE. You think ICE is a good thing. You are pro-ICE. You are okay with them violating people's constitutional rights. You just wave your hands and go, well, they have to do it. They have to commit rights violations. So what's to stop them if somebody gets pissed at you from violating your rights?
The oath that they took, and like I said, it's not. I don't think it's not rampant.
Homie, they have arrested and confined U.S. citizens and refused to allow U.S. citizens to contact their lawyers. So what do you mean oath?
I'm not sure that's true.
I can prove it to you. Hold on, let me pull it up. Sorry, I'm trying to post. Every time I pull up a source, I need to post it then in my thing. So ICE has arrested so far 170 U.S. citizens that we know of, right? We don't know the full number, but right now it's about 170 U.S. citizens. This was as of, by the way, October 16th. So 170 cases that have been so far found. The government doesn't track. So it's only when people come forward that we know this has happened, because the government doesn't track U.S. citizens held by ICE against their will. They should. About 20 of them were held incommunicado, which means they were held without the ability to contact anybody, whether that be a lawyer or a loved one. You have a right to legal counsel. They were not granted this right. And 130 of them were arrested for interfering with or assaulting officers, but then had those cases dropped. Now, it seems weird that you would say this person assaulted an officer and then dropped the case. Kind of seems like they're making stuff up. So what happens if you become one of those
And they're not as
170?
much of a tyrant as you say they are.
So you think it is okay to arrest U.S. citizens and not allow them to call their lawyers? That's okay for you.
No, I never said that.
Okay, so then
Ridiculous assertion.
my question goes back to the same thing I've been asking. Okay? What do you do if they come for you?
Well, I mean, they I don't know. I don't really understand. I don't get it. I don't think they're coming. They're not coming for me. They're coming for. They have intelligence. It's not. It's not like. Oh, I don't like this guy. I'm going to take him. You're making it seem like it's something it's not. They actually. We pay. They'd have millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money that they'd put intelligence work into to make sure that this type of thing doesn't happen as much as possible.
Okay. So
I'm not scared. I'm not scared even a little bit.
Your response is just like, well, I'm not the person whose rights are going to be violated. Basically, what I'm trying to get to you is trying to put you in the shoes of somebody else. So trying to make you think, how would I feel if I was a U.S. citizen and I was arrested unconstitutionally and I was held unconstitutionally and I was held illegally? How would I feel about this? That's what I'm trying to.
I know. I appreciate that. You know what? I committed a minor theft. I stole a phone charger, and they caught me. And I was homeless at the time. I needed to charge my phone. I stole it. I didn't go to court, and I ended up in county jail, a really shitty place. Not like prison, but it's really, really shitty, for almost 3 weeks. Right. So I understand and I'd say that's a rights violation, right? I get it. It's not going to be perfect. Sorry if I don't know if you're allowed to swear on here.
Do you think it's okay, Alex? Do you think it would be okay? Let's say there's a fictional world. And do you think it would be okay in that fictional world if ICE is able to just stop and detain someone because of the color of their skin?
How dare you?
How dare I what?
No reasonable person would fucking think that.
Okay. Well, thank you for activating my trap card.
No reasonable people think that.
Thank you for activating my trap card, because in the Supreme Court case, the Supreme Court, this was a very recent Supreme Court case. Let me pull up the actual name of the case so you can go back and look it up. They said ICE is allowed to stop and detain someone just because of their race. They're able to profile. They're allowed to stop and detain someone just because they might look Spanish. They're okay to stop and detain someone just because they might be speaking Spanish. Are you okay with ICE being given federal power to do this?
I don't think Supreme Court justices should have life terms either. And I think, if it's all fucked up like that, then you know what?
I'm not asking if they should have life terms. I'm asking, are you okay with ICE being allowed to racially profile people?
Take a wild guess.
Okay, so I'm assuming the answer is no, because you're telling me you support ICE, and ICE has the power to just racially profile people.
And they may have. I don't understand how that. I'd have to look at that case. It seems absurd.
I can read you the Supreme Court's decision if you want.
No, I mean, I believe you. I believe you.
I'm gonna just read it just so chat is aware. The Supreme Court says in immigration office. Where was it? In this case, however, the district court enjoined U.S. immigration officers from making investigative stops in the Los Angeles area when the stops are based on the following factors or combination. So this is what happened was there was a case that went to the district courts in LA where the district courts were like, hey, ICE is racially profiling people. We think this is illegal and they shouldn't be able to do this. So it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, well, the district courts are saying that they shouldn't be able to arrest people if it's based on the presence at particular locations, such as bus stops, car washes, day labor or pickup sites, agricultural sites, and the like, the type of work one does, speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent, and apparent race or ethnicity. The Supreme Court then looked at this and said, no, we think this is okay, actually. And we're going to strike down the district court's decision and say that ICE can do this. Okay? So knowing this, do you, like, I assume because you support ICE that you are going to support the fact that they can arrest somebody or detain someone based on their race or ethnicity, whether they speak English with an accent or whether they speak Spanish.
Is it arrest or detain or just investigate?
Both.
I guess. Well, I mean, if you're in a high volume drug traffic area and somebody's acting like, yeah, you know, I don't know. That's pretty rough. Yeah. I don't think that's put into practice very much, though. They may have.
You don't think that ICE is like stopping people on the street just to see if, like, just based on those people's race? You don't think that's happening?
No. Well, it's happening. Obviously, it's happening, but I think it's much more rare than you think. And yeah, no, I trust those people. Yeah, I trust them.
Which people?
And I think people want to blame racism for everything.
I'm not blaming racism. I just want to be very clear about this, Alex. I'm not blaming racism for everything. I'm saying that ICE has been told by the Supreme Court they can be racist. We have reports put together by, like, the ACLU, which has demonstrated ICE's use of racial profiling and ethnic profiling. This was a lawsuit where California was alleging that they're doing this, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, they're doing this, but it's okay.
Well, I'm still, like, I mean, it's fucked up, dude. It's fucked up. I get it, but like I said, it's a drug trafficking, terrorist, fucking sex abuse network from South America and across the world to get here, and that's the problem to me.
When it comes to sex trafficking, the largest group in the U.S. that targets sex trafficking is not ICE, it's the FBI. They have an entire division that's dedicated solely to child and adults. No, still, it's the largest division. ICE is not focused on sex trafficking. They are focused on deportation numbers. Trump has set
Well, that's
target.
Yeah, but okay, yeah. No, of course. But that if there's a much less of an incentive for people to think that America is a cornucopia free for all, then these cartels can't. It's a hit on their wallet. It's gonna take them. It's gonna make it less and less. You understand what I'm sorry. You know what I'm getting at, right?
No.
You know what I'm getting at? No?
No, because whether or not ICE cracks down on deportation, we haven't seen a significant drop in sex trafficking. And the vast majority of I'll pull up the numbers, but I'm fairly certain the vast majority of people who are arrested for sex trafficking
under Trump.
Arrested for sex trafficking are U.S. citizens.
Oh, please.
Oh, please what?
It's the cartels.
You think, I'm not talking about are people arrested in this country for sex trafficking. Do you think it is more U.S. citizens than undocumented?
No, I don't, not necessarily. I don't know the numbers about that. I don't have them. I'm just saying that it creates a sick Silk Road, like the dark web, for there to be this human trafficking train from all around the world that leads up to our border.
The human trafficking train is happening by U.S. citizens. 95, I looked it up to make sure I had the right numbers. 95% of people charged with sex trafficking in the United States are citizens of this country. They are not.
Are they citizens that should be deported?
I mean, it's not precedent to deport a citizen just because they commit a crime. But all I'm saying here for you, all I'm trying to get at to you is you're sitting here going, well, if we ramp up ICE, it's going to stop sex trafficking. But the sex traffickers are citizens. They're not fucking worried about ICE.
They may be. Well, I mean, they may be at the end paid for by some Americans, but I think the actual
citizens. They are 95% of people in the U.S. charged with sex trafficking are U.S. citizens. Not that they're being paid for by U.S. citizens.
In the U.S.
ICE.
I'm saying you pay somebody to get you to America. There's a great chance you're not making it there and you're never going home. And nobody in America is going to know about it, and nobody in America ever paid for it either.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm trying to point out to you that a crackdown on ICE crackdown from ICE is not going to show any significant decline in the amount of sex trafficking happening in the U.S.
I'm not saying in the U.S. I'm saying worldwide. It definitely
is not going to change it worldwide. ICE is a U.S. only agency. They have no control over.
Yeah, but it takes away the incentive.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
How can it not?
Because we've seen no significant decrease in sex trafficking through the ramping up of ICE. Not U.S. wise and not worldwide.
Well, I mean, this only just started a few months ago, first of all. I mean, I don't know. Actually, it's been a few years.
We haven't seen it since the inception of ICE. Since the inception of ICE, we've not seen this.
Since the inception, when was ICE created?
Under Obama.
Under Obama. And we haven't seen... I don't know. I don't... So... I guess I could be more informed, but I don't understand. So there's other agencies before that did the duties of ICE.
Because ICE doesn't handle like sex trafficking stuff, but in the U.S., sex trafficking is primarily handled by the FBI. They have an entire division that is dedicated simply to sex trafficking. Yeah,
in domestic affairs, but I'm saying foreign nationals on the way here that'll never make it here because they are told if you just make it across the border, then you've got the American dream.
Okay, well,
you're made for life.
I got to be honest, Alex. I think we've there are other people waiting in the stream, and I think we've hit basically our run on the conversation. I feel like we're just circling the drain. So I thank you for calling in. If you'd like to call in again sometime next week and continue the conversation, we can. But I think we've exhausted all of our efforts. Thank you for calling. Hey, thank you all for watching this video. If you don't know me, I'm Jovan Bradley. I'm a leftist content creator who does debates, political commentary, gaming, and more. If this is your first video, thanks for sticking to the end, and I hope you subscribe. I post videos daily, and there are hundreds of past debates on my page for you to enjoy. Thank you to all of my YouTube members. Your continued support helps me create as much as I can. Consider joining. A membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to our community Discord, early access to videos, and more. Shout out to my Tier 4 members, Zurith Moonpaw, Kazim, Never Again, Ovaltine, Sylvia Snow, Bamji, Emery Emojin, Ayla Ursus, Vel, Kelsey K, Jake Gorshander, Matthew Holloway, Vampy, Yemye, Mealy, and Dragon Nerd. Your continued support goes a long way to me continuing the fight for equity, justice, and education. Thank you again for watching.